Now, I mentioned at the top of the program, ugly scenes at a pro-Palestine rally in Melbourne took place on Sunday. Protesters actually clashed with police, and there was pepper spray deployed to disperse what was described as an ugly crowd of around 200 that had broken off from this major group of 3,000. Now, it's been reported there were objects thrown at police officers, and in a statement, Victoria Police said the group was, quote, extremely hostile and bottles and signs were thrown at members of the Victorian Police Force. I made the point that many of those members are bussed in from regional Victoria because the command in Melbourne has run out of troops to police these rallies that have been going now for 35 weeks straight. However, the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network president, Nasser Mashni, went on radio, contested the necessity of the pepper spray and said he had not seen any objects thrown at officers. Joining me now to discuss the Victorian Shadow Police Minister, Brad Batten. Brad, the police are being asked to handle a very volatile situation. I think they handled themselves admirably on Sunday, and yet they're still being criticised.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, Steve? The police seem to be the target continuously, and people want to comment on things that they do without being in those situations. Let me assure you, Victoria Police members that I've worked with over my time, the ones I speak to in this role, don't ever really want to use or deploy OC spray, their batons or their firearms. They want to try and control situations as least violently as possible. But when you do get to a position where things do start getting thrown, we've seen in the past where these protests get out of control, members get punched, and then the organisers say, oh, we never saw any violence. Then the cameras will highlight it, the violence that was there. My money's with the police at the moment. I'll be backing them every step of the way. It's really important right at the moment. We've seen so much hate speech on the streets of Victoria that we do get back in control of what is happening on Victorian streets and ensure that if people want to have their protest, do it peacefully. If you don't, we've got to give the police the powers to act, including move on laws, to prevent this happening in the future.
So we showed earlier some phone vision taken by someone at that rally, and there's audio, which we can't play in full because of its content, of someone shouting at 4 or 5 police officers that are walking on the footpath alongside the protest, "Run, you effing dogs, run, you effing rats." Now, as a former police officer yourself, how do you control your emotion when someone's shouting that at you?
It's really tough, Steve, to be in that position because you do want to defend yourself, and it's almost a natural instinct to do that. But I'll give credit, and particularly to these police officers we're seeing on the screen right now, can I say to them, congratulations. And one of the things I think you'll learn in the academy is when people are abusing you, they're abusing the uniform. They're not abusing you as a person. So you've got to learn to put that degree of separation in. So credit to them for controlling it the way they did, because that could have got out of control very quickly if police reacted negatively. They've got a role to play to keep the peace, but at the same time, walking away from something like that is actually keeping the peace. It's not being weak. It's not showing a sign of weakness. That's actually a strength of the Victoria Police. However, we have to get back in control of this. We can't continue to see positions where police can be insulted, abused, have things thrown at them, or assaulted on our streets. We need to get the move-on powers back that the Labor government got rid of. It is our priority, so they have those move-on laws to get people away from these protests and to protect those people going about their normal legal day in a peaceful way. We can't have this hate speech on the street in Victoria.
Yeah, we need some political leadership. Look, I got bashed up on X, formerly known as Twitter today, which I'm used to because of something I said last night about the Dan Andrews Australia Award, the King's Birthday Award. Look, I was absolutely shocked that Andrews was awarded the Companion of the Order of Australia. I think it was a mistake. I think it would be better if he hadn't accepted it. Former Premier Jeff Kennett's written to the Governor-General David Hurley saying you need to reconsider this. But we had former Labor Senator Stephen Conroy even slammed the critics of Dan last night here on Sky. Have a listen to our old mate Stephen Conroy.
The Sydney media bubble, frankly, are morons. You know nothing about Melbourne. Get back in your box. No one cares about your views out there in broader Australia. This sort of pathetic attack on the awards secretariat is just mind-blowing. Jeff, that was just a pathetic dummy spit.
No, I'm not sure Stephen knows what he's talking about. It's not confined to the Sydney media bubble. What was your first thought when you realised that Dan Andrews was going to be handed not just a King's Birthday honour, but the highest honour equivalent to a knighthood?
Yeah, look, Steve, I suppose it opens up. I could go down the easy path of talking about his financial management, the issues with COVID that happened. Obviously, we had the deaths in Victoria, and people would be rightfully frustrated, particularly those families, if not angry, that he was getting that award. But a couple of things that have come up on this. Number one, how did Daniel Andrews get it in 8 months when every other Premier or former Member of Parliament who does get these awards has to wait such a long period of time? Because they generally take about 2 years to proceed. But the one that really frustrates me, and I'll go back to my days into the police force, if you want to get promoted and you're currently under investigation for anything within the Victoria Police Force, your promotion gets put on hold until the investigation is finalised. Why isn't Daniel Andrews' awards been put on hold until the IBAC investigation comes out into what happened with the UFU? Why does he get a special privilege to move through to get a top award that should be rebuked if, in the case that the UFU IBAC result comes back that he interfered in any way or in any corrupt behaviour? These are the sort of things I think put risk to these awards in the future, and it makes people have a negative feeling of them. So I think, yes, he should say, no, I shouldn't take it at the moment. I should put myself in a position that I'm above all. Once the IBAC reports have all come out, there's plenty investigating him. If he's found innocent, all of those, then he should renominate or have someone renominate him then, but definitely not now while he's under investigation.
Yeah, you make a great point. Kennett waited, I think, 3 or 4 years. Most other premiers have waited that length of time as well. And, you know, the award was given for, in part, for his planning and infrastructure projects. Well, they're all over budget and over time. How could you give someone a medal for creating something like the suburban rail loop, for God's sake?
If you're awarding incompetence for financial incompetence, I think he thoroughly deserves the top honour. But right at the moment, we're seeing, you've spoken just before me, you had Food Bank on here. People at the moment are struggling to put food on the table. People across Victoria are struggling to pay energy bills as they continue to rise. Interest rates have increased. Governments have a responsibility to control the budget and inflation. We know from evidence, we've seen from reports, that the big build projects here, because they had such huge cost blowouts, has impacted inflation across the whole country. That's impacting the cost of living for every person in our state. Why would you reward someone for doing that? And again, as I said, I'll go back to where I started. He's under investigation for IBAC. He's only had to wait 8 months, where everyone has to wait 3+ years for this award. And I do believe people like Jeff Kennett, who got an award, it's more so for his work in Beyond Blue, not just his work as the Premier of Victoria. It's what you do outside of work. If anyone can tell me what Daniel Andrews has done outside of Parliament, other than be a member of staff for a Labor Member of Parliament or going in as an advisor for a Labor Member of Parliament, I'm struggling to find why he should be rewarded for it outside of his role as the Premier of Victoria. And I think it's really important to show his character.
Yeah, well said, Brad Batten. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thank you very much for that. And Brad makes a really good point. And I just wonder, I mean, I haven't gone through all of the recipients from the King's Birthday Honours list. How many nurses who worked during COVID in the hospitals across Victoria, how many of them got a King's Birthday honour? Not many, I wouldn't thought. Or the surgeons, or the doctors, or the mental health experts, or the teachers. You know, and we're still dealing with mental issues for young children who weren't allowed to go to school for 2 years. I mean, it really is a very sick joke, I've got to say.